All good things must come to an end, I guess. Knew it had to happen eventually, but still disappointing to see the Kraken's win streak halted, especially at home on Veterans Day too. It's just not a good one, not a good one. And then on top of it, it was just that was a bad hockey game. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't very exciting. Not a lot going on in that one, and then yeah, that 1-0 score is pretty brutal there. Um, Thanks for joining us, everybody, for Emerald City Hockey's post game live presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall. Big shout out to them. It was an interesting one. It was just, like I said, it was just kind of not a good hockey game. But I think for the Kraken, when it comes to kind of takeaways we can have from this one, it felt very much the opposite of the game that they played in Minnesota just a week ago, where the Kraken, as the road team, just had all the momentum. They were controlling the pace of play. They were dictating what the play was. They weren't letting Minnesota do what they wanted to do. And then in this one, Minnesota comes to town. And it very much felt like Minnesota took on that role. The Kraken were never able to kind of get their game and find it. They were abysmal on the power play, going 0 for 4. I think that's a big part of this. You kind of get a bunch of shots late there in, kind of desperation time, but it wasn't, 15 shots through the first 2 periods. Like, that's it, really? You know what I mean? Like, it was just one of those games. Get, the blocks. Minnesota, 22 block shots to only 5 for the Seattle Kraken. I think that's part of this one too. It just, I don't know. There was just times where it felt like, especially through the first period, Minnesota just kind of was the team that showed up to play, and the Kraken didn't. Kraken found themselves later on as it went through. I felt like their energy level was boosted some, but just never able to break through or get those things that they really needed. Especially not when it mattered later on in the game. So it's disappointing, but it's not like, at least we weren't like embarrassed at home or something terrible like that. We could at least, a little bit hold our heads high. That is like, okay, it's a 1-0 loss. We lost to a good goaltender he's on a hot streak, right? He only allowed 1 goal against LA a couple nights ago. Gets the shutout again here. Like, Flowers just kind of heated up. Like, all right, their team, they really sold out to help out their goaltender too. Like I said, the 22 block shots. So I mean, that's, I guess, the positive spin on this is just like, all right, it wasn't our night. We just got outplayed a little bit. We can move on. We won the face-off battle, right, Coop? I think it was you on Twitter. Let me know that. Yeah. So there is at least that, but yeah, it is just kind of an uneventful hockey game, for being 100% honest here. Speaking of Coop, we got all kidding aside, shows how literally one lucky bounce can be all you need to win a game. They got one and scored. It can be. Nights like this where it just feels like that's what it's going to take. That's what it takes. And yeah, the Kraken weren't able to receive any of those kind of fortunate bounces in this one. But yeah, it's just upsetting. Jeremiah, one of the many awesome vets that we have in here today. I was debating whether or not to try to do a shout out for everybody because I didn't want to leave anybody out, but Jeremiah Sportsbeard, obviously one of them. Brian, Sergeant Pickles, Ty. I know Ty was at the game, so he might not be in here yet. Sergeant Pickles over in Ireland right now. Good for him. Brian, I forget. See, this is what I was worried about. If I tried to do a shout out for everybody, I was gonna forget them all. Oh, I don't want to forget anybody. So if you're a veteran, let us know in the comments just so we can give you a shout out. But thanks all of you for your service. I think it was Gary on Discord who kind of said it best. Because of the sacrifices you guys made, we're able to have nights like tonight where we get to watch hockey and have a good time. And I think that really says it best. And so I wanted to get that one in there too. But I really appreciate it. Fortunate enough to know lots of veterans in my own life, have them be influences on me growing up. So I know how awesome you guys are and the sacrifices that you had to make going through everything that you did. And so definitely want to give you guys a shout out on today, especially. Jeremiah said, not enough net front traffic, couldn't win an ozone face-off when it mattered most. But yeah, blame the answer. Yeah, it's the Leia Hextall stuff's always one thing. But yeah, they didn't get any net front traffic. Like I said, they weren't able to do their own thing. They weren't able to establish themselves below the zone. They weren't able to take advantage of the Wild having to commit wingers to deal with the Kraken forecheck, right? That was a big thing that we've talked about these last couple games. One of those things that's been working really well for the Kraken. Talked about it a lot on the last deep dive. Just go back to our drinking game from last time. But the Kraken weren't able to do that tonight, and so they weren't able to get their defensemen involved. Weren't able then to get the overall game plan really solidified. The Wild just did a good job of keeping it from happening. And then when they were trying to get it back to their defensemen, like I said, that's where the 22 blocks come in. Those are mostly coming off of shots from their defensemen, and so or from the perimeter anyway, from the wingers. So is an unfortunate one in that sense that you would have liked to at least, like, if the Kraken are going to have to lose a close one, which just happens from time to time, you would have liked to have seen that it came from, you know what I mean, like uh, uh just from bad luck or something like that, rather than on a night like tonight where you just weren't getting the job done, so to speak. And then, yes, the face-offs. We won the overall face-off war, but definitely lost the battles when it mattered the most. They're late, and that definitely comes into it. Emmy, you can't win them all. Still a solid performance, just some unlucky situations. Agreed. Coop Jones was solid again. Deals with their one breakaway. Yeah, and then Larson making a fantastic play on another breakaway there. That was really awesome to see. But yeah, it's just one of those. I think Absurdly Sane gets it good here. Frustrating for sure. All well next time. It's just the way it is. All good things must come to an end. If you like goalies, this game was for you. Jones was great. Marc-Andre Fleury was better. Not to worry. The Kraken still look strong tonight and will fare better against weaker goalies from Kraken Hawk. I agree with that. And then, as Cameron put, 0 for 4 on the power play hurts, but can't win them all. Back at it on Sunday. Agreed. Get Winnipeg on Sunday. It's going to be a good chance to kind of bounce back there. And then, 0 for 4 on the power play. How often is that really going to happen for this Kraken team? Not very often, as we know. Their power play is greatly improved this year, looking really good. It was just a tough night for them. They really that was I think what did it was they weren't able to really establish what they wanted to do on the power play tonight, and I think that's what ultimately got them. Let's see. SJ, I stopped watching halfway through the second. What was I supposed to take away from that snoozer that I missed? Yeah, there wasn't a lot. Like I said, it was, I get the snoozer comment for sure. I think some other people kind of share in that sentiment. It wasn't the most entertaining of hockey games. I'll give you that one. But they just, yeah, I think just got to work on establishing your game. Like I said, that's the one thing. I just felt like the Kraken never really pulled it all together and got to do what they've been doing over the course of this win streak. They didn't do anything wrong per se, and that's why the result was only 1-0 going the other way. But I just felt like the Kraken, those little things that they were really doing that were really helping them take advantage of, as Jeremiah's pointing out, they dominated puck possession. This is a team that really knows how to do that. But it's not enough to just dominate puck possession. You got to be able to create good chances for yourself, get good guys open in the offensive zone, do all that kind of stuff. And they were doing that. And then tonight, it just wasn't always there for them. And then when it was, Minnesota just took those chances away. They laid their bodies on the line, and we saw they were paying a price for it too. Dumba, for a while, he took a really nasty one off the bottom of his shin. It definitely got to him. Marc-Andre Fleury said the game was a little boring in post-game interview. I guess the Kraken needed to get him more busy or something. I don't know. I think we're all kind of saying that. Sarah's super sleepy game. Flower's just a guy, he's I don't know. I can't say anything bad about him. I want to say something bad about that, but I can't. It's Flower, right? It's just the way it is. Playing against a Hall of Fame goaltender blows from Go Check Yourself. See, that's the bottom line. He's the best guy out there still. Yeah, and then, like I said, he's really hot right now too. Brian, Marc-Andre Fleury was solid, but was he really challenged? 22 block shots by the Wild. Felt like near zero transition game for either side. 0 for 4 on the power play. Was 0 shots, really? Man, I hadn't seen that it was 0 shots off the power play. That seems near impossible, but if a lot of those block shots were coming off the power play, then I guess I could believe it. The shot attempts might not be that way. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Money Puck. I just have the NHL up right now, but I'll go ahead and do that just so I can try to dig in a little bit deeper. Let's see. Improved on the faceoffs, though, as Brian points out. Yes, we did, but maybe that's the thing. Like, it's the trade-off, in which case I'd rather have wins and lose the face-off battle. Lindsay, pros, I had great seats right behind the Minnesota penalty box. Con, my record at CPA is now 6-2. I know, Lindsay, you were in the building. But I think Ty was also in the building, so I think they counteracted each other. The two of you might have been what was going on there. Joey, 3-4-1 is a bad home record. We need to play better at home. It's something that I think is they're going to get better at. I'm trying to remember their split from last year. I don't remember it offhand, but I feel like it was it was okay. But yeah, right now they're just kind of being road warriors. I still think that that's from early on in the season where you've got that rough stretch against Vegas, Carolina, and St. Louis, where you pick up 1 point out of those 3 games, and it was just brutal. But it was also right there early in the season. Hadn't figured out your best line combinations yet. Hadn't been able to fix and work on the D stuff that they needed to work on, all of that. And I still feel like that's weighing heavily because that's 2-1 there at the end. If you take those games out and you really just look at the Kraken once they were able to kind of figure out what it is they wanted to be doing and get everybody plugged into the spots they want to be plugged in, then they're 3-2-0. That's better. Right? So I think the home wins are going to start piling up, and they're going to start coming. Go check yourself. The Winberg wraparound to Schultz in the third was probably our best attempt at getting it tied up. Can't believe the Wild blocked 22 shots before they got to Fleury. I'm telling you, they were on it tonight. The Wild showed up to play, and they showed up to play this game. They must have really looked hard at themselves after the last game, and really that last rough skid that they've been on before this road trip for them, because I know they did well against the Kings and stuff. And so you come in and then you get this win, and like I said, you're laying the body on the line when you take 22 block shots. It's not easy to do that, and it's a lot to ask. And to do all that and have your goaltender step up for this one is a big deal. They showed up to play, and they really, really wanted this one, and they were able to make it happen. Unfortunately, let's see. Oh, here we go, Ty. Oh no, Tank Commander again. I know. Ty, we thought we were good. Yeah, sorry about that one, Ty. That one must have been brutal too, especially because it wasn't the most entertaining of games. Sorry about that. Okay, Greg's vet 2, U.S. Air Force, 96-01. Thank you very much for your service, Greg. Happy Veterans Day to you. So see, I knew there was a lot of you guys in here. Just needed to know everybody. Let's see. I would have rather seen the Kraken take more chances offensively late, even if it meant losing 3-0 instead of 1-0. Tough time when you have to make the push, but the Kraken left it a little bit late. Yeah, I felt like they were getting more chances there late, but it just wasn't enough, and they weren't the highest of quality chances. And then also for Jeremiah in here, because talking a lot about the possession. I mean, the possession really speaks for itself if you go on Money Puck and kind of look at things. Kraken definitely led in expected goals, 2.94 to 1.55 for the Minnesota Wild. So Kraken, they up nearly 2/3 on the deserve to win-o-meter kind of thing. It's just one of those nights. Krakenhawk, Dylan, would you agree that a strong PK, goaltending, and strong defensive stick play are the main factors that contributed to the nice win streak they had? Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm fighting off a cold right now. RJ is too. He's a little further along in it, so I apologize if my voice starts going at any point tonight. Would you agree strong PK, goaltending, strong defensive are main factors for their nice win streak? I don't know. I think what they were doing was they were finding ways to translate what we were just talking about with the possession, the strong possession game they were getting, the fact that they were really dominating all that possession. I think the fact that they were finding ways to translate that both to the power play, but also just to create actual good, strong, legitimate scoring chances. The fact that they were really working down low, making sure that they could then open things up for their defense, let their defense step up a little, get into nice shooting lanes, and then get the puck back to them. The fact that they were able to, whenever you possess the puck that long and you kind of have you have players like Bjorkstrand or Burakovsky circling the zone, as they shift from like one person's coverage assignment to another, there's always an awkward handoff phase. There just always is in hockey. And whether a team's kind of playing a zone or a man-to-man, there's always moments where two guys get put in that situation where it's like, okay, do you have him yet, or do I have to still keep going with him? And the Kraken were doing a really good job of exploiting those opportunities, especially those two guys, Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand. That's been the thing that has impressed me the most out of the two of those players, is their ability to walk around the offensive zone, maintain possession of the puck, take advantage of that those gaps in the defense that creates, and then also obviously get off the shot attempts that they've been getting off, if they're not the one with the puck, finding gaps in the defense to get open for good scoring chances. But I think those were the things that were really leading to a lot of what they were doing. Now defensively, they shored things up, and that helped out greatly. You're getting the puck out of your zone pretty quick. You're making sure you're winning all the board battles in your own zone. You're not losing those and kind of leading to increased zone time for the opposing team now while you're also out of position, because that's really the downside of if you lose a defensive zone board battle, you're way out of position now. The puck has been moved, you're still stuck along the board, so that becomes a big problem. They were making sure to win those, and that helped. And then obviously Martin Jones was just on fire. And anytime you get goaltending like that, it's good. And Martin Jones, he stayed on fire through this one. Like, this was not a bad game for Martin Jones at all, saving 20 of 21 shots. That's going to get you the win most nights. It just unfortunate that it didn't today. And so that's all. We needed the big rig to get us on the scoreboard from Coop. Yeah, it was a rough one without him today, but yeah, I don't know. Cale Fleury, because we can talk about it. I'm curious to know RJ's take and kind of what the vibe was overall. It was hard to notice him tonight. He had 2 shots, 3 hits, a couple giveaways. I don't know. He looked better than last year in the sense that he didn't look kind of lost in the defensive zone. I felt like he played pretty well there. I think the fact that he's kind of getting the Borgen treatment this year, where he's around and with the NHL coaching staff and going through all of the NHL practices with this team, especially since they've put such an emphasis on what they want to do defensively. I felt like he actually handled things defensively very, very well from Cale Fleury. It was offensively where I felt like he was maybe a little gun shy about pinching up in certain situations, or he was a little nervous about making certain plays there that he can then work on improving as he kind of fills in for the big rig. But yeah, it certainly hurt to have him out offensively, since he's been doing a lot for them offensively as far as trying to make plays and whatnot. Gregory, all good things must come to an end at some point. Agreed, Gregory. Let's see. From a Dalek in here. Okay. Don't exterminate me, please. That was awful. They did nothing in the offensive zone and were discombobulated the whole game. It was just pitiful to watch. I don't know that I would say it was pitiful to watch, but it wasn't. It was, like I said, they just weren't able to get their game going. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of tough to watch that. It's disappointing, especially after they were able to do it for so many games in a row. We're able to see what it looks like when they're all on their game and they're getting their job done. They're doing what they want to do. But it's yeah, tonight that wasn't there. That being said, they weren't awful. They controlled the puck possession still very, very well. You obviously were getting a lot of shots off because you got 22 of them blocked, right? Like, you were doing stuff. They were creating chances. They were trying to break through. It just wasn't there in that sense. So not sure I'd say it was totally terrible, but yeah, it wasn't. They didn't look 100% in the offensive zone for sure. Seeing lots of stuff in here about the Leia Hextall stuff. I will say this. I felt like compared to, like, we're definitely spoiled with the broadcasting crew that we have, right? There's a reason that year 1, they were ranked number 2 by The Athletic, and then they go out and they add an Eddie Olczyk, and it's like, wow, geez, like, we've got the best broadcasting crew. So anything that isn't going to be John Forsland, JT, Eddie, all of them, is going to feel like a downgrade. The only thing that bothered me about Leia Hextall tonight was I just felt like she was a little bit low energy. I felt like, was it Darren Pang in the between the glass? I felt like he was a little low energy too. He didn't really talk a lot. So it was just kind of her left all on her own to kind of make conversation with herself, which just comes across as awkward. But I'm not going to rag on her for that, because that's just a brutal spot to be in for anybody. Like, I am not envious at all of her having to do that job without having someone else in the booth with her who can be, someone she can play off of and have conversations with. And it's hard to do that when the color guy is exclusively between the bench, because there's so much more that they're hearing and trying to listen in on and trying to take in by being on ice level. I think you got to do it with a 3-man unit. Or a 3-person unit, I should say. And I think that's partly what contributed to this overall sense of it being bad. I don't know that how much of it is actually that she's all that bad versus just not Forsland and everybody we're used to. And she was stuck in a really brutal spot with just kind of no help. Like anybody, you stick JT in the situation like that, and it's not going to, be not John. If you stick John Forsland in a situation like that, it's not going to be John Forsland's best performance. Not having anybody there to kind of talk to, play off of, riff with, like it's going to feel a lot more kind of dead and low energy. And so I think that's really what was going on this time. Brian pointed out that's our first time getting shut out this season, and that's very impressive because that certainly wasn't the case for us last year. So again, it shows we are a significantly improved team from last year. Cody with the long drive back to the peninsula. Yeah, this one's got to be brutal. I got to imagine. Rebecca, ESPN was talking so much about the Kraken's speed. Thought that was interesting. Hasn't really been something we focused on as an area of improvement. That's true. Because I felt like the Kraken did have guys that were good speedsters last season, right? At least Tanev before his injury. You pick up Carson Kuhlman, about halfway through the year. He's a good guy at something like that. Donato has kind of sneaky speed in the offensive zone and how fast he can kind of get down there to try to get a jump on the forecheck. Yanni Gord obviously is very good at it. I feel like that it's something they had last year. It was just they didn't know what to do with it. They weren't very good at establishing a good transition game with it. They weren't very good at breaking out of their own zone. Certainly not good at entering the opposing team's zone, as we all know, especially on the power play last year. So I feel like it's one of those, like the speed was there all along. They just didn't know how to use it. And what they've done is they've figured out how to use it. And I feel like that's probably what was going on there. And yeah, that is part of it. That is part of their improvement for sure, is that it's part of that overall system that they've kind of put in place and that they've been using to great effect before this game. So I think that's what's going on there. Lindsay, they honored my boy Billy Borgs in the pregame video talking about his Minnesota roots. I feel like they did that specifically for me. I can't say that they didn't, right? So glad you got to see that, Lindsay. Glad you got to see him up close too. It's so sad when you struggle so much at home. I know, but I really think good times are coming. Good times are coming for sure. Coop, I feel like our power play takes too long hunting for the perfect pass. Sometimes just 3 to 4 simple but fast passes gets you the prime shots. Okay, this I 1000% agree with. Giving me flashbacks to my Penguins fandom days when, boy, did the Penguins struggle with that a lot. Like a lot. It's a real struggle that and I feel like yes, that's something that they struggled with this one. You saw it on that last power play or even with the 6-on-4 situation with the empty net. They were passing it around and you can tell that no one's looking to shoot or really make a play because their heads are all down. They're focused on receiving the pass, they're focused on cradling the pass, and then they're focused on getting it ready to pass, and then they look where they already know they're going to pass because they're just trying to keep it to the outside and not give up possession. And it's like you're done. You're never going to score like that. You're never going to be an efficient team like that. You just can't do it. Like it just doesn't work. And so I really wanted to see them get a little bit more aggressive. You can tell when they got aggressive. They got that one fabulous shot off late. I think it was Burakovsky sent one directly across to might have been Sprong as the extra attacker out there. I don't remember. I'm sorry. But you saw it. It was that quick cross zone pass. Gets the one-timer off. It was just Minnesota happened to get a guy down to block the shot because they were just really good at that today. But otherwise, it would have been a goal because Flower was not over there yet. And I really feel like that's it. You're 1000% right. You cannot hunt for those kind of perfect situations. You got to just go for it sometimes, especially with the man advantage. What's the worst thing that happens? They just kind of clear it out real quick. You go collect it, try it again. But I much prefer aggressive power plays. And I feel like they were that through most of this season. It was just tonight, it wasn't there for them. Let's see. Honestly, the team with the 2 best players won the game. Fleury was the best player on the ice, even with possession. The Wild kept the play outside, and Fleury saw every shot. He did a very good job. They backed him up with the shot blocks. You're right. He had clean lanes. He was able to make a lot. He let's a couple rebounds. He kind of flopped around a little bit in the second period. He had some issues there, but yeah, he played very, very well. Let's see. He did a really cute dance when asked what he does when a game gets boring. Lol, how can you be mad? I know. And when he thanks the post, I got to thank a couple posts. I got to see that. Thankfully, they showed us that. Oh, I love that. George, thoughts on Kale's performance still? And I kind of gave it earlier. Like I said, I felt like he was pretty strong defensively. Reminded me a lot of when Shane Wright was in the lineup against the Wild last week, where it was like he was just very focused on doing exactly what he was supposed to do. And he wasn't good. Like he was just wanted to make sure he did that. And like I said, he looks like he's really focused and taken that whole Will Borgen thing to heart. And get it, taking on all that coaching, working with the video coaches, I'm sure, on all of that. And so he looked really good defensively. Wish he was a little bit more aggressive offensively, but I kind of wish that for the entire team tonight. Marc-Andre Fleury set an NHL record with his 28th shutout against a different NHL team. I know, that's incredible. I'm curious which teams he's missing now. Let's see. Also, shout out to Jones for that save on Kaprizov. That one was dope. Like, it was absolutely dope. Jones has been really sneaky good at those this year. Like, really sneaky good at those kind of last minute get his pad across. Like, whew, those are really good as far as getting like back over to the thing to the post. This cold is totally messing with me. It seemed to be like the Kraken's passes weren't as sharp, but they had to resort to playing off the boards like they did so often last year. Agreed, Edward. They stuck to the outside. They never got aggressive. They never got that forecheck going. They never got the puck in low to free things up on the back end. It's just what it is, and it really hurt them tonight. It's the difference, because I got to think they're able to at least get a goal and force overtime in this one if they're able to do that. All right, so we got RJ ready to join us here tonight, so I'm gonna go grab him real quick. We'll see what kind of shape he's in with where he's at with the cold. So gonna be right back here, everybody. All right, everybody, we've got RJ here with us to join us. RJ, it was a rough game, right? RJ? Oh no. I think we lost RJ. Okay. Hello? No. All right. Lost RJ. Sorry about that, everybody. See if he can come back in here a little bit.
All right, I can hear you now. We good?
Yeah, it should be good. All right. Can you hear me?
All right. So, yeah, I can hear you. We're good.
All right. That game was boring, RJ.
It was. I mean, that's a good word to use to describe it. Boring. Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of this, slug it out, kind of a grind it out game. And, it really felt like a 1-0 game. That first period reminded me a lot of the first in their last game against Minnesota, but with the difference being that the Wild were able to capitalize with a goal, and then they just kind of locked it down from there. I mean, we talked with Yanni Gord after the game, and he said, it was difficult kind of getting through the neutral zone and finding space. He said there were moments where they were able to attack with speed through the middle, And when they did, they were able to get zone entries. But as far as just getting those second chances off of those, there was just really nothing to be found there.
Yeah, no, they just, I just felt like the Kraken were never able to get their game going. They were never able to get the puck in deep, kind of work that system that they've been utilizing to such effect. It very much felt like a reverse situation from when they went to Minnesota. They were able to control and dictate the pace of play in Minnesota, and tonight Minnesota was able to do that to them.
Yeah, I mean, it really did feel like they kind of threw the game back at them. And I think one of the big factors, too, was that Minnesota was able to leverage the physical play that they weren't really able to do for that game in Minnesota because of how many people they were missing with injuries. I think, you felt the presence of guys like Foligno back in the lineup who were able to kind of out-muscle Kraken players, especially along the boards and down low in those battles where you saw the Kraken consistently winning those last week against Minnesota, but you saw them consistently losing those tonight.
Yeah, no, it was rough. 22 block shots for Minnesota in this one. Like, on top of that, Fleury was pretty good and solid all night long, but the 22 block shots, like, I just felt like the Wild were kind of more here for this one than the Kraken were, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard not to blame them. They're a motivated team. I mean, they haven't done as well as they would have liked so far this season. I think they were motivated to kind of right the wrongs from last week's game against the Kraken. They were blocking shots. They were doing all the right things in front of Marc-Andre Fleury that requires that kind of buy-in. And you saw it from them tonight. They made it very difficult. Although I will say, kind of to a man that we talked to, Yanni Gourde, Justin Schultz, and Dave Haxtell, they all did acknowledge there are things that they could have done to make life a little bit more difficult on Marc-Andre Fleury, getting bodies to the front of the net. Gourde said, that if a goalie like that, if he can see a shot, he's going to stop it. And he saw too many pucks tonight.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a bunch more stuff in here. Some stuff I'm not too happy to see regarding the whole Leia Hextall stuff. Again, I say, go out there and try to do that in the booth all by yourself. Like, it's not easy to not have a color person in the booth with you. It's not easy to be in that situation.
Was there no color commentator in the booth?
No, there wasn't. You just had Ferraro down between the boards. That was it. And so he barely talked because the on ice level people barely talk because they're always trying to listen and pay attention to everything on ice level. So she had to cover everything herself. And so I was just trying to explain, like, I don't think she's bad. I think anybody would struggle in that. John Forsland would struggle in that situation.
Yeah, that's a no-win setup. It really is. I didn't know that because, I mean, again, being here, I wasn't able to watch the broadcast. So I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she was literally having to have conversations with herself. It was tough to listen to. Like, I understand what everybody's saying in that regard, but I don't think it's because she's bad. I literally think it's because she was set up to fail in that regard. Like, nobody can handle that well. It's horrible. As absurdly Sane said, Forsland without JT the other night on the national broadcast, he was a completely different. Like, that, I would have said that was his worst game called all year because he just didn't have the rapport with who he was calling the games with. It does change things. So not having anybody is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And also agree with the intermission stuff. Barry Melrose was very low energy. He looked like he was going to fall asleep. I'm not going to lie.
I haven't really liked what I've seen from these ESPN Plus / Hulu broadcasts, just kind of across the board this season.
Yeah, that's been rough. Okay, RJ, going back to the game. Flower picks up, Kraken out of the 22nd team he's gotten a shutout against. I felt like he played a very Flower game, got to thank the post a couple times, left some rebounds, but he was able to flop on top of them in his traditional Flower style where he just kind of pounces on him like a cat or something. But I felt like, I don't know. I don't think the Kraken were ever doing anything that was going to get by him. Like, they just never got in his way or made him really work for it.
Exactly. And like I said, Yanni Gourde pointed that out. We got that from everyone we talked to, really, that there were things they could have done to make it more difficult. And when you let Marc-Andre Fleury have these clean sight lines, when you let a future Hall of Fame goalie like that go to work and not have to deal with a ton of traffic in front of him, that's what he's going to do to you almost every time. A goalie like that's just not going to have an off night very often. And so, I just think, he kind of did what he does, and we've seen it from him before. With the Blackhawks last season, almost stole a couple games. I think he's establishing himself early on as kind of maybe one of the league Kraken killers among players in the NHL. But yeah, he's just a tough goalie to play against.
Yeah, exactly. What did you think about Cale Fleury tonight? And then also kind of if, if you talked with anybody else about it there, kind of what the overall vibe was.
Yeah, I mean, well, because I did ask Dave Haxtell what he thought of Kale's game
Mhm.
because I was curious. I wanted to know. And he said that overall he hung in well. He said there were, when you have that kind of pressure in your face from a team like Minnesota and they're on top of you and you're playing with a guy where it's kind of on, someone's on their offside and all of that, you're going to have mistakes, which he had.
Yeah.
But overall, he thought he fared pretty well given the circumstances.
Yeah, I thought he did really well defensively, like leaps
Yeah.
and bounds better than last season. I think getting the Borgen treatment's been good for him. Offensively, I felt like he needed to be a little bit more aggressive, though.
Yeah, and it's tough because I remember back to last season when Will Borgen first got into those few games, and he did not look like the Will Borgen that we know now. And it's easy to understand why, right? When you're sitting for as long as Borgen was, or as long as Fleury has been, you're not going to really have the chance to get into that rhythm. And I thought that Fleury looked his worst in the first period, and I
Mhm.
thought he kind of consistently got better from there, as you would expect. And so I
Yeah.
think we're going to see even more improvement for him next game. But it's tough when you kind of have this trial by fire against a big physical team like the Minnesota Wild that are putting that kind of pressure on you. So I thought he did fine given the circumstances, and I would expect more improvement for him going forward.
Agreed. I just had a question and I
And there
forgot.
was, sorry, real quick, there was so
Yeah.
much switching of sides too between him and Justin Schultz.
Yes.
I was trying to keep track of who was kind of sticking to the right side and sticking to the left side. There was no consistent. It was just whoever happened to be there. You kind of just had to talk that whole thing out every shift. It felt
Yeah.
like there wasn't a set side for either guy. It felt like.
No, it didn't feel that way. And then also Fleury wasn't playing every shift either. So
Yeah.
it was like really kind of awkward. Fleury only had 13 minutes tonight. Okay, this is my question. Before we do studs and duds, I want to ask you, better defensive play when Borgen just kind of chucked that guy coming back defensively, or that Larson play when he handled that breakaway and he was able to get around the guy who was on a breakaway and not take a penalty. How he did that without drawing a penalty, I have no idea, but it was about the 13-minute mark of the third period and it was
Oh,
extraordinary.
I remember both of those plays very well, and it's hard for me to choose one because I think I audibly said "wow" on both of those two. To the people around me in the press box, I was just so impressed. And those are the kind of quiet, defensive plays that take away real scoring chances.
Mm-hmm.
The type that you like to highlight all the time. The type that make us realize what a good player Adam Larson is. And I think we're seeing a lot more of those from Will Borgen. You could kind of clip those plays from him too. I think I did clip the Will Borgen one and tweet about it because I like that one. I guess I just have to pick one based on like personal style. They were both so good and took away great scoring chances. I'll take the Borgen one. It's my type of thing. I feel like you might disagree and go Larson, but I think that's just kind of our two of our personalities.
I'm contractually obligated to go with my boy, right? It's got to be the big
Fair
cat for
enough.
me. They were both fantastic plays, and great minds think alike. Allison also tweeted out that Borgen play, so there you go, RJ.
Yes, I saw that, right? And that's how I know that I was like onto something good is when I see Allison tweet it too. I'm like, okay, I was correct in my thinking there.
Yeah, it's nice validation there. Brian, talking about McCann, saying he gutted it out, a tick slow, touch off, that caused a few breakaways. And any chance to transition through the neutral zone, he'll come back. Yeah, I felt like McCann is still very much coming back from whatever it is.
Agreed. He looked a little bit off to me, and I think it was most noticeable on the power play. And in a game where the power play went 0 for 4, it just seemed like he was again just a touch off in kind of his positioning, his readiness to accept the puck. In different spots on the power play, as you'd expect from someone maybe a little rusty who's missed the last few games and maybe isn't 100% healthy. He rang one off the crossbar on the power play, so he's still got the shooting down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's still not 100%. He's easing back into things.
I felt like him being just slightly off is part of the reason that the Kraken were 0 for 4 on the power play in this one.
Oh yeah,
because he's so key to that unit.
He really is, and I mean, with the benefit of full hindsight, I wouldn't expect anything like this from Haxtell, given what he knew at the time. But I might have even put someone else on that unit, kind of acted almost that as if he wasn't there for power play purposes, just because of that. But you could tell he was gutting it out. And also, we know he had the face injury too, where he had to wear the bubble for a couple games to get high sticks. There at the end of the period, that's another rough one. As soon as we saw him reaching for his face, we're like, oh, great, again.
Yeah. Got a good one here from CR Bud. When you were all frozen up on the screen, it was RJ's catatonic after that game.
Yep.
I wouldn't have blamed you. Fleury in the post-game interview on ESPN said it was a boring game. Flower, that is. Matt Fleury.
That's great. That's great. Like, yeah, no, I saw him in the tunnel afterward. He was doing another interview with someone. He was he was all smiles, but yeah, that sounds like Flower.
Yeah, apparently they asked him what he does, like how he kind of tries to stay in it during boring games, and he just started doing a little dance. So
that's pretty funny.
Peak Flower there. Got a shout out here from SJ to Hellberg and having the great pads back there. It's good to see him on the bench. Rocks that bench with style. Yes. That hair, man, so good.
I love it. Yeah, no, nice to see him back, and so fans were definitely happy to have him back too this morning. If you follow us on Twitter, we had that video of the fan. Young kid brought a sign, "Welcome back, Hellberg," and he was smiling at that and waving at the kids. I mean, he's definitely happy to be back.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Why don't we do some studs and duds, and everybody feel free to throw in your studs and duds here in the comments, and I'll read them off. Do you have studs in this one? I know it's kind of hard. This Kraken was kind of struggled to get things going in this one.
Yeah, I mean, a few names come to mind. I think Will Borgen, number one, had another great game. We know what he brings at this point. And then Oliver Bjorkstrand kind of comes to mind as well. He had a couple nice plays, maybe early on in the game too. Was dishing the puck around pretty well. And then he struggled to kind of get to the front of the net. There were a few times he really was trying to get there, but then again, nobody was able to effectively get to the front of the net tonight. But there was another play I really liked where he had this little kind of almost like pump fake type of thing. He was taken out of his own zone, trying to get to center to dump the puck in and get a change. And he just did this little fake like he was going to the middle, caught the defenseman just enough off guard, bought himself the space to get the center red line and dump it in. And just the little things. It reminded me of one of those pump fakes a quarterback will do when he's running and taking off. He might even be a few yards past the line of scrimmage. Like he's got no leverage there. He can't actually do anything, but it's enough to get the defense to bite. And just smart little plays like that from Bjorkstrand. So I'll name him a stud.
Yeah, I thought Bjorkstrand, I think they said it on the broadcast, it's now been 50 shots since his last goal.
Wow.
Like, that's terrible. And it's not his fault. He's generating chances. Every game, it looks like he's right there. Like, he's just so close to making it happen. And it's just not going for him. He's just stuck in this rut with just that one goal in the season.
Has he been getting too close with Donskoy off the ice? I don't know. Is that rubbing off on him? I don't know.
I know. Something. So there's that element of that. As for me, I liked Borgen. I liked Larson tonight. Obviously, Martin Jones has to be in that conversation. Anytime you save 20 of 21 or whatever it is.
Sorry, that should have been the first name I mentioned. Martin Jones. Yeah, he was great.
You should win that game. But offensively, I mean, just Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky just add so much to this lineup. It's incredible what a difference they make. And then on the flip side, when it comes to the duds, there's a couple offensively that I want to mention. One is like the combination of Jordan Eberle and Jaden Schwartz, because I felt like they left Maddie hanging a lot in this game. There's a lot of times Maddie was really trying to kickstart things, try to get things going on the forecheck, and they just kind of weren't there to back him up. And so I felt like that happened a couple times. I want to say that. And then Morgan Geekie felt really off in this one.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the fourth line, I think I felt kind of looked like the fourth line at times in this, what you would think of a fourth line instead of the amazing fourth line that they've had. And I think Geekie was probably most responsible. And then, I mean, you could feel Maddie kind of trying to drag that line himself at times. But, just trying to pull the other two line mates with him. And it's a tough task, and especially against a Wild team as physical as they are. You could see, even in the tight spaces, as good as he was, he needed some support along the boards to win a puck battle or to fish a loose puck out, or where he'd turn away from a defender, as he's so good at doing. But he needs somewhere to go with that puck, and they weren't really giving him the help or the options there. And so he would end up just losing it. But he gave all he could.
Yeah, because we got to get him back on the score sheet for the Calder. Can't win
I
Calder. He's
know.
not scoring points. Come on. It's priority number one. Forget winning
At least we
games.
kept Taylor Addison off the board, right?
That is true. That's very helpful, actually. Now that you say it. All right, so we got some people's thoughts on studs and duds here. Got from Jeremiah, Martin Jones was excellent. 1000% agree. Shoeshine, studs, Jones, duds, Kraken's work ethic. I don't know. Like they were trying. Like I can't say. Like we've seen this Kraken team be less energetic, lively, whatever you want to say.
If the work ethic wasn't there, this is not a 1-0 game. This is a 3 or 4-0 game, at least.
But at the same time, I felt like they didn't play their, I don't know,
Yeah, they didn't play
game.
their style. I think that's a good way to say it. They didn't play their game, but the work was there.
Yeah. Brian, studs, Jones, Borgen, Larson, duds, power play. Yeah. Anytime you go 0 for 4, it's a problem, right? We got Coop in here. Dylan or anyone in chat, do you guys know anything about the women's US-Canada game thing? I think they said it's a 3-game series. Is it like a mini tournament between just the two of them? So it is. It's an exhibition series. There's 3 games total against with both teams. They're going to be playing at Climate Pledge Arena on the 20th. We actually talked about this on the Red Glare podcast, so a lot, because RJ's been able to see them at KCI. They've been having their training camp there, the U.S. Women's national team. So why don't you go ahead and kind of, hype it up a little, RJ, like we did earlier.
Yeah, it's been such a treat to get to see the women's national team in training camp, kind of getting ready for this series here. They've been at KCI, so, I mean, you can get anyone who's been to a Kraken practice at the Iceplex, you know how close you can get and how cool of an experience it is to watch them out on the ice. I mean, these players are so good. It's just been a treat to watch them. And yeah, so they will be playing right here at Climate Pledge Arena on November 20th. Against Team Canada. It's going to be a great game. These games are always awesome. And, yes, like I think a lot of people who might not be familiar with this USA-Canada rivalry or women's hockey, they might see, exhibition game and think that it's going to be something akin to maybe an NHL preseason game or another exhibition hockey game that you might see. Could not be further from the case. I mean, there is always that intensity when these two teams play each other. It is one of the most heated rivalries in all of sports, and they are full out every single time.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, call it for what it is. It's like hatred, right? Like these teams really do not like each other, and they play every game like they don't like each other, whether it's the Olympics or whether it's something like this. It's going to be a good game, and it's only $15, guys. Like
I know,
like go.
You will not find better bang for your buck for any kind of hockey game. There's no other place for that. Get a ticket if you haven't already. Get a ticket. Go to the game. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, and those are like 100 level seats at CPA. $15.
Yeah, lower bowl seats. I don't know if they still have them left. I think these might have sold out, but I got seats on the glass for $30 each. Right there behind that far net is where I'll be sitting. I'm gonna go as a fan because I just want to take it all in and enjoy the game. But yeah, I'll be right about there where I was pointing. For only $30 each, you're not going to ever find better value for hockey tickets and a great game that you're going to see.
Right, and shout out to Abby Rock, who they talked with, and that was the only time Leia Hextall had anyone up in the booth with her. Abby Rock came up there for a little bit.
Keep Abby Rock up in the booth for the whole game. Why not?
Right? I thought Abby Rock did a fantastic job up there, so I would have been okay with that. And then they kept showing the team because they were there for this game, but they would do like a quick like here's the team, and then they'd cut to the end and zoom like almost uncomfortably close in on Hillary Knight, and they did that like 3 or 4 times. I was like, there's other people to the team, like I know Hillary Knight's like the greatest scorer ever for them, but like still, like come on, there's other people out there. It was just kind of interesting there. Yeah, some people hoping that Borky's not on another Donskoy year trajectory. That would definitely be good. Jeremiah brings up a good point here. Duds, what the physical game really from both teams, but it was lacking in totality. I was shocked that we didn't see a fight. I thought after that first period, we were like guaranteed a fight at some point later on in this game. But after the first period, like the physical game just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, and I think that it was the fact that it was a close game. For down the wire, nobody wanted to take an unnecessary penalty or put themselves in the box for 5 minutes, and I understand that instinct. But I was so sure we were going to see a fight, especially one involving Yanni Gourde. I mean, it seemed like he got under the whole Wild team skin in the first 15 minutes of the game, and we were going to see a fight involving him. But he was asked afterward, he said, the question was, I think, like, hey Yanni, with you got into it a little bit there with Merrill and Zuccarello. What was going on there? His answer just deadpan, playing hockey.
Yeah.
Just playing hockey.
Yeah, that's what it looked like there. I wanted to see the two of them go at it. That would have been such a fun fight. Like, let's be real. I would hate to have Yanni off the ice for 5 minutes, but it would have been a dope fight.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Patrick at Queen Anne Beer Hall, of course, a wonderful sponsor for these. Sitting in the Turbo jersey, first table in at Queen Anne Beer Hall. Feel free to join. So if anybody's looking for a way to spend post game, go check that out. And thanks for heading out there, Patrick. And then
thank you, Patrick.
We've got Andy. Has done enough to earn the big money extension? Does his minor mistakes, lost edges, missed handles, sometimes slow response time get overshadowed by his goals and rare good plays? Is Dunn the top line D the Kraken have hoped he would turn into, or do you see them needing more? So this is an interesting question. I'm sure it's something that we'll tackle a couple times throughout the course of this season, RJ. But I do feel like Dunn has put in a lot of work this season to really cut down on the mistakes and really improve his game, just as most of the Kraken defense has here these last couple of weeks. But I don't know. I feel like for me, the thing that's still holding it back is him on the power play. I still feel like it hasn't clicked as far as him being able to truly quarterback a power play and kind of show that he could potentially be their long-term solution for that QB1 spot, if you will.
Yeah, and if you talk about a defenseman who's supposed to be kind of a top pairing guy, someone who's going to be eating up those big minutes, you're going to need to be useful on the power play given what his style is. I think right now, he projects if you can be a very good team, a cup contender if he's in your top four. I don't know that you're a cup contender if he's on your top pairing, and he's just paired with maybe a minute muncher like Larson. I just think you might need a little bit more there, but at his current money, that there's no problem with that. That's just top four money. That's not, the Kraken aren't really paying anyone that true top pair money on D right now. We'll see what an extension would look like, but it is a big question that Ron Francis has to answer, and I just don't think he even has all that information yet. They're going to basically take the entire season to see. I think he's got this whole season to kind of audition for that.
Right. And I think that's the smart thing to do. Done. Yeah. $4 million. That's what I was checking. And then obviously he is going to be an RFA. I could see them re-upping with him on a 1 or 2 year prove it deal. Even after this year, like they might just not see enough where it's something in like the 4.5 range. I could see something like that just to get him to free agency. But it's an interesting situation. That's for sure. Yeah. Do you know if there's a trophy for the winner of this series between Canada and USA, RJ?
I don't know. No, I don't know offhand. I'll try and figure that one out. But I'm not sure. Not that they need it. I mean, gosh, there is so much like pride involved in this. But there should be. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. SJ pointed out, Knight has done color commentary. They should have made her do the color commentary for this one. That would have been awesome.
Get someone in there.
Get someone, Jeremiah, Hillary Knight with Kendall Coyne.
Actually, Kendall Coyne Schofield, I believe, did for the Sharks.
Yeah, she did. I think, so could have done something here when it comes to that. Yanni Gourde is feisty, but wild player most likely to drop gloves or Greenway or Foligno, and it's not a fair fight, sort of like Ben and Couture tonight. Yeah, did you see that one, RJ?
No, I didn't. I heard about it, did not see it, but I definitely have to go back and watch that.
Ben's playing a puck along the boards. Couture just comes in and levels him, like absolutely crushes him. Ben's head's down. He just levels him, and they get up and they get into a fight, and I'm pretty sure Ben kind of handled Couture there.
I mean, he's the much larger player, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, credit to Couture, I guess, be willing to stand up there and do the fight. I heard he had a Gordie Howe hat trick, so I can't remember him having another one in his career. That might be a career first.
Yeah, it might be. He was also aided by the Stars wearing those dope like neon outline jerseys. So
yeah, there was a fan right behind one of the benches tonight who was wearing one of those, and it just kept popping. I kept noticing it there in the crowd.
Yeah, it's impossible not to. Those things are they're really nice. We got to see that sweet video the Kraken posted on their YouTube channel showing off the reverse retro with some of the guys taking a look at it and talking about it for the first time. And you were right, the color in person, or at least not lit up with whatever Adidas was doing in the background, it looks so much better.
It does, and let me tell you, I've seen it multiple times in person. The color is perfect in person. It's exactly what you'd hope it is, kind of based on the different things that you'd see. I think that video captured it pretty well, certainly better than the first reveal with everything and the lights on it. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna like the color in person.
It's making me question, like, we did that whole Red Glare podcast reviewing all of those jerseys. It's making me question all of them because of the terrible studio lighting Adidas used when they were doing them. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You okay there?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right. Let's see. Shoeshine saying yes, that was first career Gordie Howe hat trick. That's pretty cool there. CR Bud Dunn started terribly slow last year until Gio got COVID. I feel like it's mental with him. Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. He's shown at various points that he's got the skill set for it. He's got all the ability in the world. He just, for whatever reason, especially on the power play, he just can't quite put it all together.
Yeah.
All right, let me go back up because that was down towards the bottom there. If I skipped I know I skipped stuff earlier, guys. If you want me to see it now, go ahead and stick it at the bottom there. I was just trying to kind of get over all the ESPN broadcast stuff that was going on. There was a lot of it. This reminds me of how people keep telling me that the gold Vegas jerseys are great in person, but they look like sludge on TV. That is definitely true. That being said, I still don't know that they're all that great in person either.
Yeah, and the gold helmets are still bad.
Yes, they're not like those LA Kings chrome ones. Well, you don't think those look like peak 90s roller hockey league fun stuff?
Don't get me started. That's all I'll say.
All right. All right. Just because, chat's really slowed down here. We're almost at the hour mark. You and I are both dealing with these cold things. I think we'll kind of go ahead and kind of wrap things up here. So, like, super last call here, everybody.
Yeah.
Getting some shout outs there.
Oh, that's not mine. No, that's not mine. Sorry, there's a jacket over there, and it's not mine. I'm trying to tell.
Yeah. Brian's going off to bed. Totally get it, Brian. Thanks for joining us. And once again, happy Veterans Day.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I want to say happy Veterans Day to, I know we have a lot of veterans that follow us and that watch this. I just want to thank you all for your service too. I mean, I think the Kraken did a really good job, with all the Veterans Day events here at this game. I thought they really did it justice. And, it felt like every, stoppage or everything, they kind of had something there for it. So I thought they did a good job in that respect. And again, just thank you all for your service. I know we have a lot of great veterans who are members of the ECH community. Very grateful for all of you.
Yeah, no, we had a good time talking about that earlier. And Jeremiah here with the super chat. Hey, thanks for the Veterans Day well wishes. Have a couple on me, boys. Wife is home, going to spend some quality time. Go for it, Jeremiah. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for joining us for this one. It was, wasn't the greatest game ever. Wasn't the worst game ever. All good things had to come to an end, like a winning streak, unfortunately. But right back at it against Winnipeg on Sunday. That one should be a good one. I think we can bounce back. And Winnipeg sneakily in front of that division, RJ. What's going on?
Yep.
I guess we'll find out.
It'll be a fight.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be a good one.
5 o'clock start time, everyone. Remember that one.
Yeah, CR Bud's saying you got to go get a comfort pretzel on your way home there, RJ.
Yes. Oh, you know what? That does sound really good.
That's so good, right?
I will consider that.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for this one. We'll catch you all on Sunday after that next game. Hopefully, fingers crossed, reverse things. Let's go. Take care, everybody. We'll see you all next time.